Yes.
Okay. For your, what are you calling yourself?
I have a company which I run myself, which is Magic Pedals, and then I subcontract.
I know, I've seen. Okay. Oh, hey man, nice to meet you. I recognize now. Okay.
And then I subcontract, and I'm kind of like a business partner, you could say, employee business partner for Dunwich Amplification.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm starting to connect the dots here. Okay.
So as far as Magic Pedals, I do most of the stuff, except maybe like artwork. I might collect artwork.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mostly me. Where Dunwich does a lot, all the prototyping and circuit development. So like the beginning R&D stages, research and development, and then I am taking care of anything production. Okay. So anything that you can buy in masses, usually more than one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess the first, like, worthy thing to ask would be like, what was your first experience with a piece of gear that made you think like, oh, I wonder where I could go with this, or wonder what else is possible?
Well, it's interesting because I started on electric. I still don't own an acoustic guitar. Probably own like 10
Grandpa's guitars.
I like dobras and all that. Anyways, so yeah, I started with electric, and I had some shitty Boss pedal. I don't know what it was.
Was it the DS1?
It was one of them, OD1, DS1. And I think it was black, so it wasn't the HM2. It must have been one of those like HM3 or the Metal Zone. It was horrible.
Everyone's had an experience with one of those Boss pedals.
Exactly.
Sounds like shit.
I got it for $30, and I didn't really revisit it for years. I played punk music in my teenage years, so I didn't get into pedals. It wasn't until I got back into rock and roll and seeing all the large amplifiers they were using and all that, and wanted to recreate that sound was the peak interest. What really got me into pedals was the fact that I couldn't afford. I wanted to try every Big Muff from '69 through the current day. But when you're talking about when I got into it, some of those pedals are $500 for the Rams heads. They're now, I don't even know. I stopped following.
The modern ones?
No, like a 1972 to 74.
Can't tell you, man.
They used to be $500. They could be $700.
They still got expensive.
The Klon's $4,000 now. So I just couldn't possibly do it. And then what really makes them different? How do I know? Why are they different?
Yeah.
So that was the push. That was the incentive to start doing it on my own.
Okay, right on. Okay, so
DIY.
Okay, so it was the Big Muff that did it for you.
That was my first pedal that really.
Do you recall which one? How like
the New York? It's like the recent reissue, the one that Fran Tone designed.
Oh, yeah.
It's a modern New York Russian, or not Russian, modern New York pie.
Yeah. Okay. The Big Muff is an interesting pedal for those of you that don't know, because I want to say that it's somehow tied hand in hand with some of the tones of some of the bands that played at this festival, or just in the genre in general, right? It's I want to say it's a cultural like landmark in this music.
I agree, and I think it all ties back to, like they say, sucking from the '70s.
Yeah.
When we really get into the bands that were using these, like Isley Brothers, or and what's his name? The bass player, Graham Central Station, from Sly and the Family Stone. Anyways,
we recall what you're talking about.
There was lots of old people who used Big Muffs. It was a common sound among many others. Rats are very common in the scene. That's the common sun, goat snake kind of sound.
Yeah.
A lot of the American death metal guys use rat pedals. Big Muffs are very specific.
Yeah, it's got a certain tone that when you stomp on it and you touch it and you bang out that chord, like that open E or something,
Definitely.
Yeah.
If you want, I think a good example of perfect Big Muff tone is the first Witch album. just straight out like that album opens with the sound of Big Muff.
Oh man, that's a classic tone.
Jay Mashin has all the fucking original Big Muffs. It's got all Ram's Head, the Pie, or the Violet Ram's Head.
That was one of the first tones that I was like kind of obsessed with. When I first heard Sear.
Exactly.
It's just like how can I achieve this sound?
Right.
You know, and then you do a little research.
And it's funny because it's actually just a lot in a lot of cases, there's many different amps that will give you the same platform, but a pedal, if you run your amp clean, it really becomes a pedal platform, and that takes over your whole sound. So yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you might have a badass amp or something like that, but coupled with a good pedal, you're on top of the freaking world.
Definitely.
You're memorable, yeah.
Definitely. You know, I mean, I've done many years researching all sorts of different people's tones, and from the 60s, 70s, up through all the way to modern day. And it's interesting. Yeah, there's many different approaches to it all to get some similar results sometimes.
Okay, speaking of tone, let's take the direction there.
Okay.
Because I feel like tone is something that people that do not play rarely understand.
Right.
Like, when we talk about tone, it's I've had some people tell me it all just sound, no, it does not all sound the same, you know?
No.
Is there a specific, what are some tones that have stuck with you and you're like, damn, that tone, man, like...
Yeah, one of the first groundbreaking, like, really, really life-changing tones for me, I think, in this doom scene, so to speak, it would be the Greg Anderson's Goat Snake sound. Just cranking the power section of the Model T, running a rat into it, and just, it's so big and fat.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those tones that's monstrous and chunky at the same time.
Right.
Oh, like there's not so much low end that it kills the...
Actually, there's tons of low end, and the way they wire their amps, they use a phase inverter. So,
you know the chain, huh?
so they can, the dude from Eagle Twin makes Gentry or Net, and they can switch the phase of the amps because that can rob your low end, especially when you're running 2-3 amps, like a lot of these guys are doing.
Yeah, the thing I noticed about that specific tone is that it still sounds like chunky, you know, like in a nice way, not.
Well, to me, what I hear is tons of overtones, that's something that I find new guys are very dull in their tone. It's somewhat very just like dark and gloomy, and can be
repetitive.
I shouldn't say one-dimensional.
One-dimensional. Well, that's fair. I mean, I kind of agree with you. There's some. We're not going to say the names or anything like that, but it's apparent. Some.
I don't think that should be focused.
Yeah, exactly. But back to stellar tones that stand out to you. What else?
That's a good question. Okay. Man, Randy Holden's Population 2.
Interesting.
That guitar tone is untouchable to me. You know, and then if I take one step back, I get into like Blue Cheer. The guitar tone on Summertime Blues is just, it's whales.
Oh yeah, especially like the leads, the way they sound.
Yeah, they sustain out so thick and nice. And then Randy Holden was just two guys, 16 Sun amps and 16 cabs.
How can you go wrong with that, right?
Pretty much.
That is a experience. Seeing that live is something else.
Yeah, I think the most I've seen is probably like Sleep Stacks or something.
Yeah, that's something that I feel everybody should at least attempt to experience. It's definitely something. The rumble like that.
Right. I think, dude, for modern day, I think Boris are tone gods.
Yeah.
They nail it so hard. All three of them are on it. Like Wada, the guitar player, the bassist, and the drummer.
They got like a They got a cult following.
Definitely.
Within a cult following music. Which is funny.
Yeah.
I think so.
And personally, keeping this subject, this genre, my number one has become Yob. They're my number one heavy band at this point. Conan's heavier, but Yob touches me.
Yeah.
Yob has like spiritual essence.
Did you catch them this year?
I didn't, but I've seen
man.
them many times, and I've had one-on-one talks with Mike Shite. It's all of them. They're amazing.
Yob is a special band for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's switch gears. I want to ask, when did you first open? Started looking inside. How did you feel when you first opened it up?
I don't think I opened a pedal until I built one. I bought like a build your own clone kit and started with those. I initially had wanted to get into amps, and I actually had opened up some amps, but there's there's the danger of lethal voltage if you don't know how to discharge the caps and what not to touch. So I started with the pedals. That was the kits was probably the beginning, and then I don't know, I started doing repair for a local shop and made the Shrine fuzz, and off it went.
Right on. Okay. How do you feel? Because there's a lot of custom pedals out there. Lots. How do you feel? Where do you see the market of this? Do you think it's going bigger, or it's going to downsize?
That's a good question. The future of the pedal industry. I don't know, man.
It's unpredictable.
Since social media has become so easy with Instagram and Facebook, and there's been so many DIY resources, like Mad Bean pedals, all these guys who break it down. It's become easier and easier for hobby builders to sell a couple to their friends, realize they can make sales, and start a business without any proper planning, without really, doing it correctly in a way.
It's more accessible both for the information and to basically make it, right?
Right. But as far as the amount of custom pedal manufacturers out there, it's just, I can't keep track of them all.
I can't either.
And I don't try to, because I know there's a lot that I don't feel are doing anything necessarily fully innovative. And I don't necessarily feel like all of my stuff, the stuff I've done, is completely innovative, but all the Dunwich stuff, we've definitely taken a step out. We've taken all these classic circuits and really tried to make them custom enough that they stand out next to 20 other clones of the same type.
Yeah.
And you're not just buying it because of our graphic, which is a selling.
I was about to ask you, there's definitely a selling point to the image
Totally.
base rather than the sound.
Well,
Touch on that.
It's very interesting because a lot of people who build pedals are electrical engineers. They come from a very techie background, and it's a different mindset. So it's very common for those guys to just want to do simple text. It's very easily readable, simple, small text. You see it all the time. And so we definitely tried to set apart by putting graphics that are somewhat abrasive, try to be subtle with it as much as we can, but something that'll catch people's eyes and let them know what we're aiming for, at least what you're going to get under the hood. We try to represent that.
Okay. Now, the artwork behind music is obviously, I feel like goes hand in hand sometimes.
Definitely.
If I listen to a certain album, like Clearing the Path to Ascend, for example, I immediately think about that album cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the artists of the industry and now the manufacturers are necessarily coming together in some way? Or can you see that in the future coming together in some way?
Definitely. We've been collaborating with all sorts of different artists. We've used at least 5 different artists on our models. And we have a bunch of custom drawn stuff.
And now that that's developing, what I'm wondering is, when is it going to stop just being a pedal and being something more, as in like an art piece?
I think that already happens, and definitely whenever we put out like one-off custom acid etched type enclosures, people will buy them for that.
It's like a piece of history at that point.
In a way, yeah. It could be one out of one, you know.
It's like, hey dude, I got this pedal that nobody else has, or check out. It's like a painting on the wall. Right?
Definitely.
Okay, so where do you see yourself moving forward from where you are now? Plans for the future?
Just trying to keep my head down, work as much as I can, and build up stock, create inventory, expand to distribution eventually, and move away from all direct sales.
Okay. Is there a reason why?
Well, you know, we make the profit margins better with direct, not to pay the other people whatever, 20-30%. And
That makes sense and is smart.
we have enough grassroots following, being like tied to bands. I've done a bunch of touring with different bands. Just making friends. We've got our name out there that we haven't had to rely on distributors.
Okay.
But eventually we will, you know, if we want to get into markets like Russia or China, Australia, these other places, it helps not have to deal with customs and long shipping waits.
Yeah. It's more beneficial for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've made a name for yourself, it sounds like, at least with the cult followers in a way. People that look for, people that want the gear, you know.
Definitely.
So it sounds like everything's positive right?
It's good, man. It's good. It's grueling work, but it's great. It's you know, I get to work from home, set my own hours, and
Boy, I wish I was you.
like I said, I've been at it for 7 years, and so I put a lot of time in, just kind of floundering and not making money, just doing it for it.
There's a struggle.
I lived with my parents for years up until I was about 25, so I can try to pursue this.
Do you feel like, hell yeah, I'm doing this, it's paying off?
It's kind of just, it turns overnight. It seems like it's starting to turn. So I think sometimes
I'm glad to hear
much
that for
greener
sure.
from the other side, you know. But it's good, man. We get good praise. We do have a pretty loyal following.
That's great because at the end of the day, I think people like you are more into not just making music that grows like this, just some trend.
Right.
It pushes it beyond that and makes it something bigger.
Yeah, hopefully I look at pedals as like an artist, a palette for a painter.
Yeah.
So it allows people different sounds. Maybe hopefully they can get the sound that they want in their head. Because I know when I've gotten that sound, sometimes I'll build these pedals, I'll plug them in, and I know I have like, you know, okay, I need to test these in 2 hours. I'll just get lost in it. And before I know it, I spent an hour on one, just playing with one pedal. And they can be very inspiring when it's the sound that you want, and you're getting the sound that you want out of your fingers, out of your, you know, that's priceless in many ways.
I completely feel you on that one.
Yeah.
All right, man. It was nice talking. Nice seeing you.
Definitely.
Let's enjoy the rest of the festival. Right?
Yeah, I guess if I could add one last thing, I think I encourage anybody who wants to start your own business, just go for it. Start doing it. Vision it. Dream it. Vision it. Make it happen. You'll never look back. I mean, if it's starting a business selling pallets, starting your own business is where it's at.
That sounds great to me, man. That's great. Really inspiring coming from you, actually, to be honest. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it.
Right on.